Hey everybody, it's Thursday, so which means it's jelly printing day. Yesterday, I apologize, I missed my crafting moment. I had my second shot on Tuesday and ended up a little befuddled yesterday and feverish and ended up going home. So a lot of things didn't get done that I usually do on Wednesday. So keep an eye out. I will be sending out an email today about tomorrow, because tomorrow we've got some fun stuff happening. Seth After is going to take over my live time at 11, and he's going to show you some of his new products and talk about some of his older products. And yeah, he's a really nice guy, and I really hope you tune in, and he's got some great techniques that I'm sure he'll show you. He usually makes a sample that he shows off at the end that's usually really fun to look at. But today is jelly printing day, so I'm going to go ahead and turn this around and show you what I'm going to do. Let's see. Hoping that this, let's get this. All right, so I actually have a tool in front of me today that I wanted to share with you. I don't have this in the store yet, is probably the way to think of it, because I'm not sure I'm wondering if this is something anyone would be interested in. I am. I think it's pretty darn cool, but that doesn't always translate to people wanting to buy it. But this is my 7x5 jelly plate. I do have some of these in stock, but this is a jig that you would use to register your prints. And there's no quoting actually, it's just to register your prints. And the idea is that you can set this up so that you can put the piece of paper down in the right place every time. You can see that was the wrong spot for this paper size. So it's adjustable. So I'm going to move this down and see where that ends up. So this size paper that I happen to have doesn't work completely, but it doesn't really matter. The whole point is that when you use it, that when you put the paper down, it gets put down in the same place every time. And there's all these different placements for it. I'm actually wondering if I do, if that's more the right size. Anyway, I just thought I might demonstrate a little bit how to use this tool today, and if it sounds like something you guys would want, I'll order it in. So I think that this might actually be for 8.5 by 11. So let me just grab a stack of that. I don't always have this in front of me. Okay. I have all of this paper that's already cut that I usually use, but let's see if this is, I'll give you the size. Not quite. I think I know what I'm doing wrong. Let's put that there. There we go. I think that's probably the right size. Anyway, I'll do a couple of prints with this. Today I'm literally just planning to mess around. I don't have any grand plans to show you anything other than jelly printing and the way I like to do it. I do have a bunch of new stencils. If you saw my live on, let's see, was it Saturday, I guess? I flipped through a box of new stencils. I have all of these 12 by 12 stencils that have come in from the Crafters Workshop, which is one of the really big stencil companies. I say that big stencil company meaning that she's one of the more mainstays, but she is a independently owned, woman-owned business. So I recommend, if you can, supporting her, because she's great. She's actually a great person. Like when I order from her, I order from her, and it's nice. I always like that when I'm dealing with products, the people who make the products, knowing the person that I'm talking to is the person who invented it is always kind of fun. All right, so today I'm just going to grab the paints. I've got a bunch I can choose from. I'm going to start with this Twisted Citron from Tim Holtz. And this is pretty fluid, so we'll see how this works. And I just went straight onto my plate without really thinking about it. Now I've used this plate for alcohol ink as well, so there might be some residual alcohol that's going to potentially interfere. So I'm just going to play around. This is my Ranger brayer from Dino Wakely. And let's see, I'm actually going to pull off, before I register anything, I'm just going to pull this off first and not worry about it. And pull that off. And now I'm going to do the registration. So I'm going to bring the tool in here, and I'm going to take the paper, and the way you do it is you start with the paper up in the corner and you lay it down really carefully. You can push this away after you've done it. And what you should get is the paper, quote, perfectly centered where you want it. Oh, that's kind of cool. Oh, and it worked really well. Okay, so this is obviously meant to work with 8.5 by 11 pieces of paper. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to do something in a completely different color, and I'm going to put the stencil down first, and then I'm going to lay in a color on top of this. Let me see what I want to use. I'm going to use this yellow So Flat, and these come in little tubs, so I'm just going to use it's a very fluid acrylic, so I'm just going to put it down like this with a palette knife and roll it out. Right now I'm using the whole plate. Now this, I'm using the stencil as a mask, so I have masked off. So I'm just going to have paint in the spots that the stencil, the open areas of the stencil. And I'm going to put this, there we go. And then I'm going to use the registration again. So I'm going to take this piece that I've already jelly printed on, and I'm going to put it in the registration bars, against the registration bars. And now what I should have is a print that printed directly on top of the color I already had down. Ta-da! And that worked really, 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 really well. If you can see that. I also have a ghost print that I can pull here. I'm just going to use my smaller paper, which doesn't work with the registration because it's not sized correctly. I'm just going to pull that off because I like it. Ooh, cool. All right, so that's my registered print right there. I'm going to go ahead and throw down another color, and this time what I'm going to do is, let's see, oops, accidentally throwing things away. This is permanent green. So far I've used permanent yellow from the So Flat, Twisted Citron from Distress Paints, and here's another So Flat. This is permanent green, which is a pretty vivid green. And what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to roll it out. You can see the yellow is still on there. And I'm just going to roll it out. Now, hopefully you can kind of see what I love so much about Goldens, which is that their pigment load is so strong. It did not take much paint for me to get a nice solid layer. So what I'm going to do with this one is I'm actually going to subtract. Ooh, I'm going to need, uh-oh, where did I put my, oh, I'm sorry. All right, well, I was looking for baby wipes, and I don't know what I did with them, so we're going to go ahead and just use a tissue, and I'm just going to wipe away the paint from some of this area. It's not going to be as complete as if I used a baby wipe, but we'll go with it. And then we're going to register this. So we're going to put this in the registration tool. Get that all the way up there. I'm going to go ahead and bump this up against the registration bars, lay it down. Okay, so now you can see I've got a little bit, I've got my layering going on, but again, it is in exactly the right spot because of the registration that I did there. Now you want to push the registration tool out of the way when you ink up, because otherwise you may very well get it messy and covered in ink, which you do not want to do. Okay, I am really enjoying this stencil. So this is my new stencil from Crafters Workshop. You can see all the graphic elements. I haven't even gotten to this corner yet. Let me go ahead and do that. And this time I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull, this is from my stash. I've got Martha Stewart, Date Night Pink. It's one of my favorite colors to use. I'm just going to go ahead and throw it down on top of everything that's on here. It's a little thicker than the fluid acrylics I was just using, than the So Flats and the, but it's also, I don't know if you can see the difference. Look at the translucence. That is because the pigment load is just not as great as with like the Goldens. The Goldens are well worth the extra money if you can swing it, because their pigment load is so great. Genuinely, just such a, they just go such a long way. So I'm actually going to use this, and even though I haven't registered it, because I want to pull these crosses up. So you can see, that's what the difference is between registering and not registering. So I didn't register it, and so now I have ink that's off the side, which I'm just going to accept. I'm going to do a second one because this ink was this paint was very liquidy, so there's lots left. That's kind of cool. And I'm going to pull this off, and now I have this pattern, and you can still see there's some of that green and the yellow from my earlier pulls. Didn't quite get that right. All right, don't forget you can always put a comment, a question, if you have a question about this, in the comment section. I am watching today, so I will see it. Ooh, that's kind of fun. So you've got a little bit of the ghost printing from the earlier prints that I did, but you can definitely see how when I pulled up, so I didn't completely pull all the paint away, so there's some paint in there, but I do have the pattern pretty well expressed. I also have cruddy bits. So yeah, that's fun. I'm going to do a little more. I really like these neons. Here's another one. This is the Americana neon. I don't know if I have this one in stock. I do have Americana paints because they're a nice value, but and let's see. So again, do you see the translucence? I mean, part of it is fluorescents are hard, but I'll show you the golden in a minute. And this one went down fairly squishy, so I've got quite a lot of paint on there. Let's just do something with all these different things. So what I'm going to do is pull, let's see, I have this. Now some of these pieces of paper I'm using as sort of cleanup pieces where I'm just putting them down to pull off paint, and I'm not thinking about what's happening with them, which might mean that I get some cool stuff like that. That's pretty cool, even though that's not what I'm not going for anything in particular with this. I'm going to pull this off, but I am going to register this one because I want to build this one up. Hi, Lois. Yeah, kind of fun. Whoops, squish. Now I'm just using regular digital paint. Or paper. I'm not using anything special in terms of paper stock. I mean, it's my heavier weight that I have in the store that I like, because when I print things, I like them to be sturdy, but it's nothing special beyond being a little thicker than the stuff you might buy for your printer at home. I want to show you, this is the golden, this is a fluid, so it's going to go down thin because it's a fluid, but I just want to show you a little bit, maybe, how it compares. I put down a lot because it is fluid, and I went squirt, and it squirted. So this is a lot of paint, but I'm wondering if you can see the vividness compared to the previous colors I put down, and it's just that little bump up in terms of quality of paint. Oof, that's very fluid, so it's moving around. I'm going to do a couple of these pulls, see what I get. Getting a lot. Okay, so yeah, this is a fluid acrylic, so it is genuinely wet. Now I could let it dry a little bit, but then I'd have to put another paint down on top of it in order to get it off. So let's see what happens when I do this. So at this point, I'm really using the fact that this is about registration to do my layers. So I'm doing one layer at a time, and I'm not letting them dry and putting paint on top of them to pull them off, which is one of the things that you can do with a Gelli print. I'm going to use this purple, and again, this is the So Flats that I'm so in love with right now. And there's some serious pink left on my brayer, which I'm just going to go with. All right, I'm going to go back to here, and I'm going to use this one. I love the graphicness of that. I'm going to pull up something with one of my, wasn't very careful with how I piled those on top of each other, and I've got some cross-contamination. Okay, so I'm going to pull that off, and let's see what this looks like if I print it on top of this one. Ooh, so that's a little galactic effect there. We've got the pink coming through, and the pink has its own pattern underneath. You've got this sort of star shape that has popped up, and it looks like the alcohol that might be still on my plate is still creating little bubbles, which I actually love how that turned out. So that one's a cool one. All right, now we're going to do it the other way around. I'm going to put the stencil down. I have a lot of ink left on my brayer from that, and so I'm just going to brayer it on. So now I'm using the stencil as a mask this time. And now we're just going to put this. Yeah, didn't really do anything on that one. It happens. So let's see. Let's do something more interesting. Let's do this. Let's go back to this pretty yellow. Squash that on both sides. Oop, there's still some green on that. Nothing like hair contaminating your work. Remember the first time I realized I had knitted my hair into a project and how horrified I was when I saw it there. It's a very common thing to do, but still kind of yucky when you finally see it in your own work. All right. Okay, there's a little cross printing going on there. I think, let's see, I like that one. Any of these is crying out. I'm just going to do another one. So there's a couple things. Actually, with this one, I could print it and try to pull this off, but I think what I'm going to do is actually brayer some color on behind it and see what happens if I can just pull it up as a print with two colors. So I'm going to print, brayer this on over the printing that's already on the plate. It's going to create a little sticky layer that the paper will adhere to, and also pull up the paint that's underneath it. And I don't want to over brayer it, because what happens when you do that is you pull that under printing off. So just going to So this is more traditionally what I like to do, where I pile 2 or 3 layers of color on a print at a time, and I pull it off like that. So the registration tool gives you opportunity to do it 1 layer at a time. So if I wanted to print this with the registration tool, I would have done the purple first and then done a yellow layer, and that's how I would have gotten this effect. This, because the yellow was already on the plate as a ghost print, I used the purple as the background to pull it up. So the first color was the yellow and the second color was the purple. Whereas if I was doing it with a registration, just registration, it would have been the other way around. The first color would have been the purple, second color would have been the yellow. All right, so if the registration tool looks interesting to you, let me know. I might bring them in anyway. I have a whole new display for the Gelli stuff in the store right now. It's all on the back wall, and is all displayed so you can see the different sizes and the different tools that I sell. And of course I have stencils coming down my ears. I have so many stencils right now, new stencils. So I hope that sounds interesting to you, and that you come on in. You can come in tomorrow. Tomorrow Seth After is taking over my live, so I will be sitting here watching the comments. We have a special thing where if you see something that he's demonstrating that you like, all you have to do is say in the comments, I want that, and you just talk the color and number, and we will write that down and pull it for you and hold it for you in the stock. So I hope that sounds interesting, and don't forget you can just drop in Friday and Saturdays now from 12 to 5. All right, hope to see you guys soon. Take care.